Alright, a new year means a new start for me, and this year I'm going to resolve to sit at home and talk about video games like usual.
Holy crap, what a year! With so many new releases, so many new experiences, I'd have to say that 2014 was one of the best years in recent memory to be a gamer. And in what's becoming an oversaturated tradition, it's time for me to look back at this stellar year. Same rules as last year, it didn't have to come out in 2014 as long as I played it for the first time, and no fan-made games. Also, I'm adding a new rule. I'm excluding games that are simply updated versions of games that I've played before because that just feels cheap. For example, Arcana Heart 3 Love Max is out of the running. And just keep in mind, I experienced so many cool games that it was torture to pick just 15. And I know your experience is different from mine, so leave your favorite games in the comments, or better yet, make your own list. I've already shown you how to do it. Anyway, let's fire up the engines. It's game time! One way that my tastes have shifted last year is that I played quite a few more PC games than in previous years. On one of Utter Spartan's countdowns, where the heck has he been, by the way? I learned about a game called Dungeon Fighter Online. Unfortunately, I later learned that the game had been taken offline by Nexon before I could try it. Hey, this was a microtransaction-funded game after all. But thankfully, the game's creators, Neopol, wouldn't take no for an answer. And thanks to Omega Snake, I was roped into this game's open alpha, and I gotta say, I'm impressed. The game is basically what you'd get if Double Dragon and Mabinogi fell in love and had a baby, with Blaze Blue as the godfather. Successfully combining the beat-em-up genre with a Momorpaga, DFO is a free-to-play hack-and-slash fest with a lot to enjoy. There are several classes and even subclasses to play as, each with their own unique abilities. The fun of taking on quests and going on raids with your party, or by yourself, is made all the more fun with the huge number of character possibilities. The challenge of racking up insane combos for better loot makes learning the combat system satisfying as well. Being a fan of beat-em-ups, I really found myself getting into this game. Unfortunately, the revival was just an open alpha, even though it did have the same content as it did before Nexon took it down. However, with the beta coming this spring, this game looks like it's going to get even better. And thanks to the fans on Facebook, it's going to be an open beta. See, Capcom? Fans do matter, damn it! Some people are getting on Nintendo's case about not taking the freemium market seriously. Let's be honest though, very few of their franchises would be likely to benefit from this business model. In fact, the only one I can think of is Custom Robo. I've been hearing about this series from both CJ and Zmurcielago, and now that I've played the GameCube and DS games, I'm convinced that a free-to-play Custom Robo would work if they could do it right. These games have the kind of gameplay that would lend itself well to the model. Being half of the fucking name, customization is pretty much at the core of this game's mechanics. Picking a combination of parts that fits your playstyle is half the fun, and with the myriad of parts available, your loadout is most likely going to be different from anyone else's. And let's not forget how fun it is to just go in guns blazing and take down your opponents, or to set up the perfect strategy and execute it to secure your victory. Yeah, we're talking full metal, high-intensity combat here, coming from robots about as tall as Destroy Man's atomic boner! The games themselves are a lot of fun, and the stories are not too bad either. The GameCube version is pretty dark, while Arena on the DS has a bit of a more kid-friendly tone, but they both have plenty of serious moments. Of course, the real fun comes when you can get a bunch of friends over for some mechanical mayhem. Custom Robo is the kind of series that needs some more love, and now that Nintendo is taking online more seriously, this is the perfect opportunity to make a better attempt at the free-to-play model. Come on guys, make it happen! Work with Riot if you have to, they know how to make it work, just look at what they've done with League already! I just want to see some more Custom Robo, okay?
Damn it, gotta go fast.
Yeah, Sonic Boom has gotten some bad press, I'm not gonna deny that. But in spite of how bad it is, we did get a good Sonic game this year. Well, kind of. So someone on Steam, I can't remember exactly who, gave me an indie title called Freedom Planet as a gift, saying it was a love letter to the Genesis era. And while that is a pretty fair description given the sprite work and playstyle of the game, it does plenty to establish its own identity. Considering my old-school tastes, I gravitated towards this game pretty well. Harkening back to the classic Sonic 2D platformers, the level design makes for a lot of high-speed action and some excellent platforming. And not only are these levels well designed, they look gorgeous. I mean, look at them and tell me they don't look good. The 3 playable characters are unique as well, from the Dragon Lilac and her Rocket Knight power, the Wildcat Carol who drives a motorcycle up ladders,
His video games don't question it.
and Amelia, who's basically Tails with barriers. But perhaps the best part about this game is how well the story and characters were handled. Despite the decidedly cartoony art style, the plot in this game is surprisingly dark, dealing with an alien invader plotting to spark an international war, with our 3 heroes caught in the middle. Still, it does manage to have some pretty humorous moments here and there. And, wow, good voice acting. I'm sorry, can we take a moment to appreciate how well the voice actors pulled off their roles?
How did this happen? Our walls are impenetrable!
Your floor isn't.
And to think, this started off as a Sonic fan game. Now look at it! Man, the stuff that comes off a Kickstarter.
Foreshadowing. Check.
Remember how I've said that Kirby's never starred in a legitimately bad game? Yeah, the 3DS did absolutely nothing to change that statement. In fact, Kirby Triple Deluxe is arguably one of the best games in the series. It doesn't stray too far from the formula of the series, but in all honesty, it didn't have to because the formula works. It's the same reason I love Mega Man so much. If it isn't broken, you don't need to fix it, you just need to keep it properly maintained. Something Cashcom has been neglecting to do of late. But back to Triple Deluxe. When making a new Kirby game, you need to bring something to the table to take advantage of the hardware. Considering the Wii could handle 4 players, co-op was the perfect choice for a return to Dreamland. But how do you exploit the 3D gimmick? With a little thing I like to call genius level design. Not only do the levels take advantage of multiple planes, but enemies and attacks can fly at you from the background. Couple that with some amazing looking and playing boss fights, and the game stands out enough on its own. But what makes Kirby, well, Kirby? Yeah, new copy abilities. The lineup adds Beetle, which is fun as hell, Bell, which looks funny but is actually pretty cool, Archer, which is amazing, and Circus, which, well, On top of that, there's tons of replay value, including 2 fun minigames which got expanded eShop versions, a special mode where you play as King DDD, and the return of the arena, topped off with tons of collectibles, and you've got something incredible. Oh, and that Hypernova? Yeah, if it can beat Majin Buu, that is pretty OP. Welcome back to Pandora, kiddos! After having gotten a taste of the Vault Hunter life last year, it was only a matter of time before I came back for another meal. Fortunately, Borderlands 2 is even more satisfying than the first course. Okay, this is how you do a sequel. The presentation looks even more badass than before, the game's environments are quite a bit more varied, there are more vehicles to use, the co-op is improved, and the plot is a bit more involved. The first game basically put you in a barren wasteland looking for some treasure that turned out to just be sealed evil in a can. The sequel, however, pretty much shows you what would happen if corporations were allowed to basically become nations. The new crowd of Vault Hunters soon find themselves joining a resistance against the Hyperion Corporation, helmed up by one of the most detestable pricks ever put on paper. The locations of the game show you a lot about how Pandora has changed, or rather that a lot of Pandora was left unexplored from the first game. There are a lot more types of locations this time around, and a lot more enemies to face down. Of course, you've got a new gang of Vault Hunters to explore it with, including Axton the Commando and his turret, which has more potential than even Roland's, Maya, the new Siren, whose phase lock can take enemies out of battle, Zero the Assassin, who's less like Zero and more like a mashup of the Spy and Sniper from TF2, and Salvador the Gunzerker, who can dual-wield any guns he can get his hands on. DLC also gave us Gage the Necromancer and her trusty BFF Deathtrap, and Krieg the Psycho, who basically tosses the conventions of FPS tactics down the shitter. Of course, the main course of the game is guns, guns, and more guns. There's more guns than ever here, which is good, because now I have a lot more ways to put a bullet through Handsome Jack's no good, egomaniacal, power-hungry, greedy, shit-talking face! What is it about Arc System Works that draws me in time and again? You know I love BlazBlue, so it should come as no surprise that the long-awaited Chrono Phantasma delivers on its hype. Picking up from where Continuum Shift left off, Chrono Phantasma improves on the formula established by its predecessors. Some of the more annoying mechanics have been removed and replaced by better ones. The Guard Libra is gone, and in its place is the new Crush Trigger attack, which can break an enemy's guard. The Gold Break Bursts have also been replaced by the much cooler Overdrive, which is a hyper mode which releases your character's latent power. The gameplay itself is as solid as ever, and some of the new Astrals remind me that I have to remake that list sometime. As for the new characters, we have the effeminate Amane, the no-nonsense Bullet, the absolute beast that is Azrael, the smooth-talking Kagura, and the playable debut of Sector 7's mad genius Kokonoe, who is absolutely... Hold on, we got a game changer here! You have no idea how long Guilty Gear fans have been waiting for a new game, so you can imagine that Guilty Gear Xrd Sign carried a level of hype all its own. And let me tell ya, this game takes the series into the next generation. The Unreal Engine has done wonders for the look and feel of the game. ArcSys managed to make 3D models look like 2D sprites. The gameplay is tight as well, and a few new techniques are included, like the Blitz Shield. Despite some notable absences from the roster, the new characters sort of make up for it. Seriously, just what is Bedman's deal that makes him so funny? My main complaint with both games is that the story mode is very dialogue heavy. Heck, Xrd story mode is all dialogue. But who plays fighters for the story anyway? Now let's rock out to that theme song! You know what separates a developer's best titles from their worst? Look at Double Helix. They did Battleship the movie tie-in and the Green Lantern game, both poorly reviewed cash-ins. Then look at the revival of Killer Instinct, one of the best excuses to buy an Xbox One, and then check out how they handled Strider. Let me tell ya, this game does the Ninja of the Future justice. Instead of simply cashing in on nostalgia, these guys managed to take the character of Hiryu and mold his world into one of the best reboots in recent memory. The game takes cues from both the arcade original and the exploration-based NES version, combining the two in an exploration platformer hack-and-slash. As Hiryu infiltrates Kazakh City in his mission to take down Grandmaster Mayo, he's faced with classic boss battles with new twists, and like most Metroidvania-style platformers, plenty of sick upgrades and lots of areas of the dystopian city to explore. You really feel like a man on a mission here, cutting down countless mooks with one of the most awesome swords ever, climbing on walls, and zipping all over the place like a total badass. Yeah, your average Belmont would kill to be able to pull off shit like this. The soundtrack also pays homage to the classic soundtracks, with updated techno tracks that get your blood pumping as you tear through the Grandmaster's forces. Minus the backtracking. And hey, if you ever get tired, you can always hit up the challenge mode. Here you can see how fast you can blaze through various time trials, or just try to survive wave upon wave of enemies who want to ruin your day. Man, that's a lot of stuff to take in for your average ninja. Fortunately, Strider Hiryu is not your average ninja. He's the kind of ninja you don't fuck with. And then Double Helix got bought out by Amazon. Speaking of characters you don't fuck with... Yeah, this past year, I was introduced to everyone's favorite Umbra Witch, which should be obvious considering that Bayonetta was in my top 30 favorite characters. And no, it's not on account of thinking with my Wang, Logan! Okay, I'll admit, Platinum Games took every opportunity to capitalize on Bayonetta's sex appeal, but behind all the TNA was a solid and compelling story about a conflict between light and darkness, combat that's fast, fluid, and satisfying, loads and loads of character, and boss fights that are insane both in scale and in gameplay. I mean, the game makes Frank Sinatra music sound epic in the modern era. And then Nintendo decided to give them credit by not only releasing it on Wii U, but throwing in a sequel. And dare I say it, it's every bit as satisfying as the original. In fact, Bayonetta 2 offers even more options for combat than the original, with several more weapons for the witch to break out, as well as the new Umbran Climax, which basically turns her into a one-woman wrecking machine of death. The story of the second game is solid as the first, though in a different way, that way being a lot more personal, as Bayonetta has to beat the crap out of both demons and angels alike in an effort to save her best friend's soul. There's also the new Tag Climax mode, which is basically an online co-op challenge mode, but I never really paid much attention to that. The reason I'm putting both games on here is because, in all honesty, I can't bring myself to favor one over the other. They both were challenging and engrossing, and they were both a ton of fun to play through, for reasons other than hormones would indicate. And let's not forget, Bayonetta's character was designed by a woman. A woman! Also, you can dress her up as Nintendo characters in the Wii U games. Well, Bayonetta has always been pretty foxy. And cue facepalm! In case you didn't know from previous lists I've done, I love WayForward's games, especially the Shantae series. I mean, a belly-dancing, hair-whipping half-genie who protects her home from unspeakable evil? What's not to love about that? Well, she did kinda lose her magic at the end of the second game, so that kinda makes her worthless, right? Did you forget that this is Shantae? Yeah, not even the loss of her genie powers can keep this spunky heroine down. As a matter of fact, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse is arguably the best adventure yet for Sequin Land's unsinkable guardian. And apparently her magic isn't gone, it happens to be in the hands of the mutinous crew of Risky Boots. Naturally, this leads to an uneasy alliance since Shantae wants her powers back, and Risky wants to prevent the revival of her mentor, the infamous Pirate Master. In case you don't know, I'm a big fan of exploration platformers, and Pirate's Curse does a lot of things right in the genre. The series' trademark quirkiness returns, the dungeons are well designed and well thought out, and there is a lot of stuff to collect. We're talking about a game that rewards cleverness and skill. Even though Shantae's genie magic is temporarily out of service, the various pirate instruments are a pretty damn good substitute, and make for some seriously clever puzzles. We also get quite a bit more insight into some of the characters, particularly Risky and her past with the Pirate Master. Combine this with the awesome sprite work that WayForward is known for, Jake Kaufman's kick-ass soundtrack, and some fun and challenging bosses, and you can tell that this game is a wish come true. And now the wait begins for Half Genie Hero. Also, whatever shampoo Shantae uses, I want some of that. Okay, I'm still not buying into the whole PC Master Race bullshit, but I gotta admit, there's a treasure trove of games on Steam I've been missing out on. Thanks to my contact Snake, again, I was introduced to the majesty of Dust and Elysian Tale. Oh my god, this game is slick. Given my love for 2D platformers, I fell in love with this game in short order. The colorful cast of characters really brings this game to life in ways that you wouldn't expect. Even the NPCs have some personality to them. Dust himself is an exceptional case of how to do Amnesia right. Not to mention, his sidekick Fidget is one of the most adorkable characters I've ever seen in my life. I'm serious, I smile every time this critter opens her mouth, especially when she and Dust interact. Even the Merchant, the freaking Merchant, is well characterized. It also doesn't hurt that he was voiced by Xander frickin' Mobus. Another thing I love about Dust is how well the story is conveyed. Considering the colorful art style and animal characters, you'd expect a bright and cheery game. But no! The story is actually surprisingly deep and thought-provoking, tackling such issues as racism, extremism, revenge, and finding one's place in the world. The combat is also amazing. It encourages risk by rewarding high chains and combos with bonus experience, but take a single hit and all that work is for naught. The swordplay is also fast and fluid, and parrying a particularly vicious strike is just so satisfying. The level design and environments are also spot on. One minute you're slashing your way through lush forests, the next you're navigating your way through dank underground caves. One issue I had with this game is that the boss battles felt a little on the easy side. Granted, this may be because I was over-leveled and over-equipped, but it still felt kind of like a bit of a letdown. But everything else, from the hack-and-slash exploration, to the presentation, to the soundtrack, is simply exceptional. You know, now I wonder what other kinds of PC games I've been missing out on. Any suggestions, people? The state of Mega Man is pretty sad right now. Capcom seems to show no intentions of keeping the series going, despite the attention that Capcom's American offices have given the series, and the fact that the fanbase seems to be more vocal than ever. Even Keiji Inafune, the creator of Mega Man, wants the series to continue, even in his absence. In the meantime, he's working on his own things. We got Mighty No. 9 coming this year, but filling the void is one of the best games on the eShop, Azure Striker Gunvolt. This game has all the stuff you'd expect from Inafune Sensei's best platformers. Tight controls, excellent level design, kick-ass sprite work, music that is absolute ear candy, and a great story and characters. The plot centers around Gunvolt, an electricity-wielding psychic who's caught in a struggle against a powerful organization who seeks to control his kind. Sounds rather familiar, doesn't it? The story ties familiar themes such as friendship, freedom, morality, and discrimination together rather well. Gunvolt himself has some really serious moments as early as the end of the game's intro stage. And I have to say, GV's powers are really cool. Tagging enemies with your sidearm and then unloading your thunder, geez that sounds dirty, looks and feels so liberating. Not to mention, true to its inspiration, Gunvolt is really mobile. You also get some great and challenging bosses that really remind you of Inafune's platform experience. Enhancing the experience are plenty of challenges, lots of unlockable equipment and upgrades, and level design that encourages speed and combos. One last thing. The combo system is somewhat similar to Dust, but here, if you get a combo high enough, you get treated to anime-style music courtesy of the game's answer to Hatsune Miku.
Okay, this game needs to have an anime to go with it, and whichever studio does it, please make it good. Remember what happened with Blaze Blue Alter Memory? Okay, you all want me to say it, so... Hoenn confirmed!
Okay, I said I wasn't putting any updates to previous games on my list, but let's be honest. Pokemon Alpha Sapphire is more than just a simple update. Taking the best parts of the most divisive Pokemon game since, well, Gen 5, Alpha Sapphire and its companion Omega Ruby take one of the best eras of Pokemon and make it even better. More Mega Evolutions, including Mega Gallade, which kind of looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist. Seriously, the arm blades look like dual discs, don't try and deny it. 3D models that look as cool as always, along with cool animations for both classic and new moves. An updated soundtrack which feels right at home, sounding familiar and yet fresh, like a remake should sound. The story also got updated. Granted, it mainly got updated on account of Mega Evolution, but it still feels like an update. Speaking of Mega Evolution, the mascot legendaries got their own equivalent. However, these aren't Mega Evolutions. This is Primal Reversion. Let me tell you, catching Primal Kyogre was tough. Also, and I have to say this is a bit minor, but you'd be surprised at how much opens up when you get the chance to soar on a dragon across Hoenn. It even gives you the chance to find legendaries you wouldn't have expected. And hey, across these two games and X and Y, you can finally catch them all. Speaking of X and Y, one problem with those was the distinct lack of post-game content. So how does Game Freak address this issue? The Delta episode. Centering on Rayquaza and its positively broken Mega Evolution, the Delta episode is an entire story unto itself. The character of Zinnia is delightfully quirky, and we even got to catch Deoxys. One question remains though. With Primal Reversion, does that mean that if Gen 4 gets remade, we'll get to see Primal Dialga again?
God, I hope so.
A lot of people have been giving Nintendo a lot of heat lately for having no third-party games. Well, contrary to popular belief, Nintendo has in fact been working with third parties. You think Zelda is too focused on exploration? How about condensing it to the combat and letting Link loose against hordes of enemies with particle effect maelstroms? And who better to make it happen than the guys who made a playground out of Chinese history? Hyrule Warriors is the crossover we never knew we wanted. The gameplay style of Dynasty Warriors, pitting you against waves and waves of mindless imbeciles, with the occasional smarter commander or giant monster, fits incredibly well with the characters and lore of the Zelda universe. Speaking of the characters, good lord did they go all out with being inclusive with the roster. Not only do we have fan favorites like Midna, Girahim, and Rudo, but some unexpected faces, including Agatha, the self-proclaimed insect princess, for some reason. Each of these characters has their own unique style. The story, I'll admit, does feel a little phoned in, and only there is an excuse to bring all these characters together. But hey, I didn't care. I was just having too much fun cutting down wave after wave of mindless mooks as easily as I cut grass in any other Zelda game. Not to mention, there's a lot of content to this game. Tons of secrets to find, courtesy of Gold Skulltulas, plenty of weapons to try out, and the Adventure Mode, which turns the original NES game into a series of challenges that will seriously test your mettle. And since it's Nintendo we're talking about, the DLC is indeed done right here, opening up the game even further with new characters, new costumes, and new challenges. But I have to ask one thing. Koei, can we get Lubu as a DLC guest character here?
I'm being serious here. I would kill to see a fight between Ganondorf and Lubu. Figuratively speaking, of course.
Do I really need to explain this? Seriously, is there any need for an explanation of any kind whatsoever? It's Smash Brothers. It's fucking Smash Brothers. But since you don't want a 10-second segment, I'm obligated to explain why this game is here.
No, seriously, it's in my contract. No, wait, this is my grocery list. Damn it, Jeremy!
But seriously, was there any doubt I put Smash 4 on my list? It has everything that made Smash awesome. Better gameplay, tightened up from Brawl with no random tripping in sight. Improved online with both traditional players and the competitive crowd in mind. Seriously though, who plays for fun? A soundtrack that dwarfs anything I've ever heard simply in terms of sheer numbers. And for the first time in series history, you can Smash on the road. And Nintendo made sure to make the 3DS and Wii U versions each feel like their own thing. Let's face it, the hype for this game was off the charts and it does not disappoint. One of the biggest new additions is the way you can customize fighters. Not only are Mii's playable and customizable, but you can actually unlock custom variations of the existing characters' moves. On top of that, this is the game that introduced the world to Nintendo's foray into the Skylanders market, also known as Amiibo. I'll admit part of the fun of Amiibo is seeing which new defects will pop up. And you don't think I'd forget to mention the roster, do you? This is arguably the best lineup to date. Not only does most of the cast return, but it's joined by some of the greatest newcomers we've had so far. Greninja, Mega Man, Little Mac, Rosalina, Shulk, Robin, Palutena, hell, they invited Pac-Man! And let's be honest, prior to that stupid leak, did anyone honestly figure they'd include the fucking Duck Hunt dog? I don't think I need to see anything else. It's Nintendo's trump card. It's the game the 3DS and Wii U needed. It's fucking Smash Brothers! You probably think I'm still loopy from the Onion incident right about now. You know I love Smash. You know how hyped I was for this game. You probably thought I would pick this game as my number 1. Well, it would have been, were it not for this game. From the first level to the final boss, this game is the essence of gaming in its purest form. Kneel down before the king of Kickstarter. I said kneel, damn it! Yes, holy fuck, yes! Shovel Knight is an NES gamer's dream. In a time where retro-styled games are a dime a dozen, this game goes the extra mile to forge its own place in gaming. Taking the best parts of some of the most beloved games in the NES library, Shovel Knight succeeds in crafting an experience that truly feels like it would hold a place in the 8-bit vault, and yet fits perfectly in today's world. Basing a 2D platformer around the mechanics of a shovel was a genius move. The level design also works perfectly with the shovel's mechanics, providing fun combat and plenty of secrets to be found. The boss battles are also incredibly fun, and the game has an NES level of challenge. By which I mean, you are likely to die often, and the game handles even that really well. Of course, if you've seen my blind Let's Play, you'd understand that. The retro inspiration really shows, with some of the best pixel art I've seen in years, and an incredible chiptune soundtrack by Jake Kaufman, whom I mentioned earlier, and Manami Matsumae of Mega Man fame. The story and characters also make things even better. Each character has a unique personality, especially the bosses, and they all come together to bring the story to life spectacularly. And you know, I've been thinking for quite a while, and I can't come up with a single glaring problem with this game in any way, shape, or form. Believe me when I say I don't use the term near perfect lightly, but I can honestly say that this game is, in fact, near perfect. The only problem I can think of, its length, will soon be addressed with upcoming DLC. Everything else, from gameplay, to level design, to presentation, to the art style and soundtrack, is all incredible. This is truly a game worthy of the title of Masterpiece. From a fledgling developer's first title, no less. The only reason I can think of that you wouldn't want this game is if you're not a fan of the NES era or 2D platformers in general, and even then I would still recommend it to anyone. It is simply that good. And with Shovel Knight coming to PlayStation platforms next year, even more people will get a chance to experience not only my favorite game of 2014, but one of the greatest games I have ever played in my life. This is the kind of polish that every crowdfunded game should aspire to. Just, holy shit, Yacht Club! You guys have set a ridiculously high bar for yourselves! Give yourselves a trophy, guys. You have most certainly earned it.
I'm the quarter guy, and now I need to think of another game to Let's Play. Or I could just do videos on the DLC when it comes out.
Hey there, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave your feedback in the comments below, I really appreciate it, as long as it isn't petty hate. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more from me, check out my other videos and click that little subscribe button. I'm also on Twitter, Tumblr, and Steam in case you're interested. And if you want to support my channel even further, you can do so by becoming my patron. There's a link in the description below. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.
To the heaven!
Though I may be bored, someday the moment will come. Hunter is hunted.